A lot of folks think a meal is harmless just because it is quick, familiar, and sitting in the grocery aisle with a friendly label on it. But three of the most common American meals on the table today have been tied in research to a higher cancer risk, especially as we get older and our bodies become a little less forgiving. Now, I am not here to scare you or talk like every bite is a disaster. I am here to help you spot the meals that deserve a second look, understand why they matter, and see what you can put in their place without making your life harder. If you want to protect your health, keep your meals simple, and still eat food that actually tastes like food, stay with me. I've spent a lot of years in my own farmhouse kitchen outside Franklin, Tennessee, paying attention to how real food behaves in the body and how processed food behaves on the plate. Ruth and I have tested a lot of recipes over the years, and I've tried to be honest about what is strong evidence, what is promising, and what is just old-fashioned common sense. And I should say this plainly: food is not a substitute for medical care. If you have a diagnosis, if you're on medication, or if you're dealing with something serious, keep working with your doctor. What we're talking about here is making everyday meals less likely to work against you. The first meal is the cold-cut lunch. Ham sandwich, salami roll-up, turkey slices from the deli case, hot dog at the picnic, maybe even those little stacks of pepperoni that people eat straight out of the package. I understand the appeal. It's fast, it's salty, and it feels easy when you're hungry and tired. But processed meats are one of the clearest places where science has been sounding a warning for years. The World Health Organization classifies processed meats as carcinogenic, which is a strong word, but it simply means there is convincing evidence they can increase cancer risk, especially colorectal or colon cancer. What makes them different from a roast you cook at home is the way they're preserved. These meats are usually cured, smoked, salted, or treated with nitrates and nitrites to keep them looking fresh and tasting the same for a long time. The concern is not that every slice is poison. The concern is that these preservatives and the way the meat is processed can create compounds that may damage the lining of the gut over time. And as we age, that lining and the rest of our digestive system tend to become a little more vulnerable. In plain English, the gut may not bounce back as well as it once did. Now here's the practical part, because I don't like telling people what to avoid without giving them a better way. Ruth and I call this the Sunday roast method. Instead of buying a pile of pre-sliced deli meat, buy a whole turkey breast or a whole chicken on the weekend, put it in a roasting pan with salt, pepper, and a few herbs from the garden if you have them. Rosemary, thyme, sage, or even garlic work nicely. Roast it until it's done, let it cool, and then slice it yourself. Store the slices in a glass container in the fridge. For sandwiches, wraps, or a quick plate with pickles and tomatoes, it's just as convenient as deli meat once you've done that small bit of weekend work. And the flavor is better, I mean that. Homemade roast turkey has a clean, savory taste that doesn't leave that odd processed aftertaste in your mouth. If you want it extra juicy, don't overcook it, and let it rest before slicing. A little broth in the bottom of the container helps too. One note though, if you're making sandwiches for someone with a sodium restriction, go easy on the salt and season with herbs, onion, or lemon instead. That way, you're still getting a satisfying lunch without leaning so hard on cured meat. The next meal is the frozen TV dinner, the microwave tray meal, the ready-made casserole that goes from freezer to plate in 5 minutes. I know why people buy them. Some nights you are tired, the knees are talking, the sink is full, and the last thing you want to do is chop onions. Modern food companies understand that, which is why these meals are designed to be irresistible and convenient. The problem is that many of them are ultra-processed foods. That means they're made mostly from refined ingredients, additives, emulsifiers, modified starches, flavor systems, and other things your kitchen probably does not keep on the shelf. Research has linked higher intake of ultra-processed foods with a greater risk of several health problems, and some studies have found associations with cancers, including ovarian cancer and brain cancer. Now, association is an important word. It means researchers saw a connection, not that one frozen meal directly caused one disease in one person. Still, the pattern is enough to take seriously, especially for older adults who are trying to stay strong and independent. These meals often crowd out real vegetables, broth, beans, and whole grains, and they can contribute to inflammation and poor overall diet quality. I've noticed something in my own kitchen. If a meal can sit in a tray for months and still look exactly the same when you heat it up, that should tell you something. Real food changes. It softens, browns, steams, or breaks apart. A tray meal is built to resist change. That's handy for the factory, but not always so lovely for the body. Our farmhouse answer is what I call the freezer friend. When Ruth makes soup, stew, chili, or casserole, she never thinks only about tonight. She makes enough for 2 or 3 meals. Then we ladle the extras into single-serving glass containers and freeze them. A good beef and vegetable soup, chicken and rice soup, lentil stew, or even a bean chili can all live in the freezer nicely. When you want one, you just move it to the fridge the night before, or warm it slowly from frozen if the container allows it. In 10 minutes, supper is on the table. This works because you are still getting convenience, but the food is yours. You know what went into it. A pot of soup made with onions, carrots, celery, garlic, beans, and broth will usually give you more fiber, more flavor, and a much better ingredient list than anything in a plastic tray. If you want to make it taste richer, add a spoonful of tomato paste, a splash of vinegar, or a little Parmesan rind while it simmers. Those small tricks make homemade food feel complete. Just be careful with glass containers. Leave room for expansion when freezing and use freezer-safe jars or dishes. Nobody wants a cracked container in the morning. I've had that happen, and it's a bad way to start the day. The third meal is the sweet start, that bowl of colorful cereal or the packaged pastry with coffee in the morning. A lot of people over 60 choose it because it seems light and easy on the stomach. But light can be a funny word. Sometimes it really means low in nutrition. Many of these breakfast foods are ultra-processed and loaded with sugar, refined flour, and flavoring, while giving you very little fiber or lasting fullness. The science here is especially concerning for high-sugar diets and cancer risk patterns. High intake of ultra-processed, sugary foods has been linked in research to increased breast cancer risk, particularly in postmenopausal women. One reason this matters is what happens to blood sugar and insulin. When you eat a sugary breakfast, your blood sugar rises quickly and insulin rises to help manage it. That's normal in small doses, but when this pattern happens day after day, high insulin levels may encourage growth signals in the body that we don't want to overfeed. You don't need to become a biochemist to understand the basic idea. A breakfast that gives you a sugar spike and then a crash is not doing you many favors, and it usually leaves you hungry again before lunch, which is how the pastry tray keeps winning. The better approach is what Ruth and I call overnight porridge. It's simple enough to become a habit. Take old-fashioned rolled oats, not the little instant packets with a cartoon on the front. Put about half a cup of oats in a jar or bowl, add about half a cup of milk, kefir, or plain yogurt, plus a splash more if you like it looser. Stir in a spoonful of chopped walnuts or pecans and a handful of berries. Blueberries, raspberries, or sliced strawberries all work. Cover it and leave it in the fridge overnight. By morning, the oats soften into a creamy, gentle breakfast that is ready to eat cold or warmed slightly. What makes this so useful for older adults is the fiber. Fiber is the part of plant food that helps keep digestion moving and supports a healthier gut environment. It also helps you feel full without the blood sugar roller coaster. The nuts add a little crunch and healthy fat, and the berries bring sweetness without turning breakfast into dessert. If you want it a little warmer in winter, microwave it for 30 to 45 seconds and stir in cinnamon. That gives you a pleasant, comforting bowl without relying on a box of sugary flakes. If you have diabetes or are watching your blood sugar, this kind of breakfast is often easier to work into a meal plan than a sweet pastry, but it still needs to fit your own medical advice and portion needs. Now, I want to step back and say something that I think matters. The problem is not only that these meals are bad in a narrow sense, It's that they replace better food over and over again. A cold-cut lunch pushes out beans, eggs, roast chicken, tuna, leftover soup, and plain sandwiches made from real meat you cooked yourself. A frozen tray dinner pushes out home soup, a simple skillet meal, or leftovers from the day before. A sugary breakfast pushes out oats, yogurt, fruit, eggs, or toast with peanut butter. It's the crowding out effect that slowly changes your whole diet. And older adults feel that shift more than most people realize. As we age, digestion can get a little slower, protein becomes more important for maintaining muscle, and appetite sometimes gets smaller. That means every bite matters more, not less. You want foods that do more than just fill the clock between meals. You want foods that help you stay steady, satisfied, and able to keep doing the things you care about. Let me give you a very practical way to think about all three meals. If it comes in a packet and tastes the same every time, be suspicious. If you can recognize the ingredients in your own kitchen, you're probably on better ground. That doesn't mean you have to cook like a magazine cover. It means you use ordinary foods that behave well in real life. For lunch, roast one bird, slice it, and use it throughout the week. Add mustard, lettuce, tomato, or a slice of cheese if you like. For dinners, double the pot when you cook soup or stew and freeze the rest in portions. For breakfast, make oats the night before so the morning is already handled. These are not fancy ideas, but fancy ideas are rarely what keep a household healthy over the long haul. Ordinary habits do that. I also want to mention a couple of safety notes because they matter. If you're on blood thinners, managing diabetes, dealing with kidney disease, or following a special diet for another condition, talk with your healthcare professional about what foods and portions fit you best. And if you have trouble swallowing, severe digestive symptoms, or unexplained weight loss, don't try to fix that with breakfast porridge and homemade soup alone. Get it checked. Food is helpful, but it is not a replacement for proper care. Ruth likes to say the kitchen should make your life easier, not more complicated, and I agree with her. A good habit should feel almost boring once it's established. That's the beauty of these substitutions. You're not chasing a miracle. You're just stepping away from the most processed habits and moving toward meals your body has a better chance of handling well. Over a month, that can mean a lot more than one dramatic change you never keep. So if you remember only one thing from today, remember this. Those three common meals are not just about calories. They are about the kind of ingredients your body sees every day. Processed meats, ultra-processed freezer meals, and sugary breakfast foods have all been linked in research to higher cancer risk patterns, and the risk becomes more concerning when those foods are regular habits. You do not need to panic, you just need a better default. Your first action could be as simple as this. This week, replace one cold-cut lunch with your own roasted chicken or turkey slices. Or make one double batch of soup and freeze the rest. Or start one jar of overnight oats tonight. Pick just one. That is enough to begin. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Which of these three meals is hardest to give up in your house, and what old family breakfast, lunch, or supper did you grow up with instead? If this kind of practical, honest food talk helps you, you can subscribe and I'll keep sharing more from our farmhouse kitchen. Until next time, take care of yourself and keep choosing meals that actually serve you well.